That's really cool. It excites me to have these conversations. One of the reasons I'm really excited is, there are, as I'm sure we all have, just a bunch of different ideas you want to implement. And maybe just having a set aside time to come together with some friends and have that accountability, actually go heads down on it and do something about it. That'd be really cool. Just in a boot camp setting where we're learning, but also being purposeful about implementing the things that we're talking about. It's really cool. It's really cool. I'm excited about that.
Now, with that accountability, is 1 day a week sufficient for that? Because one of the things we had kind of thrown out there was maybe splitting up the mentoring piece a little bit, how we have like the beginning part, where we're at, what are we doing? Maybe pull that section out and maybe do that on like a Monday or a Tuesday evening, like have a brief, maybe 30-minute meeting, move that there. So it's earlier in your week, so you can kind of attack it during the week. And then on the weekend, we have a, quick, how'd you do? And then just go right into the presentation.
Yeah, that accountability is certainly welcome. I think for me, if I will be frank, I think committing to multiple meetings, more than one a week, would be difficult just with my schedule. I think also it's good to have that accountability. So I'm open to more ideas. I don't think I'm completely turned off by a 15-20 minute meeting on a Monday and then going from there, meeting up on Saturdays. I'm just concerned for my schedule. And that's really where it is. So
would something like that would it work better if it was like you get a reminder email on Monday that says, hey, here's the 3 things you need to do today or tomorrow. And then maybe Wednesday, it's like, hey, did you get that done? Because you need to get it done so that you're prepped for the weekend.
That's a good idea. Now that's like, it's a softer touch, but it's also a in your face reminder. I like that. I was even geared toward like a reminder to go add your status to Slack or something like that and say, hey, where you at? Go put it in Slack, just to have, again, that extra layer of accountability. Someone didn't post their status in Slack, maybe it's someone that needs to be reached out to a little bit more. I know this is not work, and I'm not trying to make it work. I think my issue isn't necessarily that I don't want to get it done. It's just the making of the time, and having that accountability is probably good for me. It may not be best for everybody.
Yeah, that's the challenge with all of these, is that it's, we've all got other stuff to do. And so it's finding the right, it's sort of like, it's a balance thing. It's finding the right balance to say, well, how much do you want to put into this? And how much can you put into this? And then finding a way to, give that nudge to say, hey, if you want to do this, this is what you need to do today, or, in the next 24 hours to make sure that you're properly prepared, that you've given this the time that you want to. An example of that was, I think it was this year, maybe it was last year. I think it was this year, started the year with a 21-day challenge where it was, it was fairly open-ended. I think it was basically, hey, day one, and actually I think it was like day, -1 or something like that, the day or two before you started. What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish at the beginning of this year? And then, the day before said, okay, we're going to get started tomorrow. And then day one, it was it was an email reminder that said, okay, spend your, 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it was, make sure you get that done. And I think it came out at like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or something like that. So it sort of started the day, said, hey, if you want to do this, why don't you just go get it done now, and then you're done. And then day two would come through and say, okay, you should have gotten day one done. If not, go catch up and let's, get yourself going forward. And then it was just daily reminders that was, basically a combination of, congratulations, you've made it, a week, you've made it 2 weeks, you made it 15 days in a row, whatever it is, but also reminders and nudges to say, hey, if you didn't, for example, like on the weekend, hey, if you didn't get that done this week, this is a perfect time for you to go catch up on that thing that you said you wanted to do. So it's stuff like that, is just that combination of how much do you want to put into it, and then a nudge to say, hey, did you get that done? And if you haven't, let's either catch up, or let's at least get it done today so we can get a streak started.
Yeah, that's good.
Other suggestions, comments, topics, things to discuss?
Yeah, one thing I kind of like how you're putting things in the meetings and that, Rob, but like what we just talked about, I think maybe if we find a tool, or maybe use Jira or something to kind of keep that in your face, kind of reminder type thing.
Yeah, we had the Trello board that we used for a while, but maybe something like that where it's more reminders that it's out there. Because we'd go put stuff in, when we'd set talk about our goals for the next meeting, but it was really, then we just didn't touch it again until the next meeting. So maybe something like that, where we just sort of, find a way to do an automate. And there may be a nice tool like that says, hey, you were going to get the X done by, Y date, and you've got a week to get that done. Have you worked on it? So we may find something like that, which could be in itself a good little tool for us to get used to, as sort of a nudger type application or something like that, that periodically it's built to remind you, hey, you're going to work on that.
Oh, didn't Jira buy Trello? So isn't that integrated with? Okay. So I think Trello has a plugin for Slack. So maybe we could connect it to our Slack channel and maybe drive it that way.
We could. It does have one. I think it's based on updates, but there are some things like that I thought about looking at. One's called what's it called? Oh, I think it's called Stand Up Alice. That is a Slack plugin, and all it does is you set it up, and it's just like, it asks you, at X time, like at 8 a.m. every day, it'll say, all right, time for today's stand up. What did you do? What are you going to do? And then it gives you a reminder. And then at like 8:30, it posts to everybody, here's what everybody, put for their status. So it's an automated stand-up tool, but something like that, where you just, you get sort of a check-in kind of thing that says, hey, how you doing on that? And it's not a super soft touch, but it's about as soft as you're going to get, because it's basically, hey, give me an answer. And if you don't, then it's just going to say, hey, Michael didn't respond today, something along those lines. But it's just enough to, give you that little nudge to say, hey, there's that little bit of accountability. So that's not a bad idea at all. It's to put something like that, build some more accountability or reminder tools into some of our processes. Other suggestions, comments, schedule changes, anything like that?
To me, I think Saturdays is perfect, and that I like also the flexibility. You can always adjust it. Weekdays sometimes it can be hard, so Saturday, yeah,
and that's, like I said, it seems to work that we don't firmly stick to it. Plus, we have at least usually in the summer, maybe July, it seems like, or August, so we'll take some time off, and then at the end of the year, we typically take some time off. So it's not for me, being someone who cranks out presentations on a lot of these, it doesn't feel like it's overly burdensome. So I'm hoping that's the way it is for everybody else. It doesn't feel like it's too much or too rigid. Others, questions, comments, suggestions? All right, so let's see. Next steps, some changes and stuff. So it sounds like from the mentor point of view, we're in pretty good shape there. We will look at potentially some longer term or some longer session things that we may want to cover. What we'll probably end up doing is maybe put out to everybody sort of if we get sort of a short list of here's 3 or 4 things that we could do, is see what people would want to do, and then probably nail that down a little bit more. Like, hey, would you be willing to do 4 hours on a Saturday or 6 hours on a Saturday? Would you rather do 6 hours on one or 3 hours across 2 different Saturdays? Some of those kinds of combinations. Are we, and maybe I think it's probably under that communication changes, is maybe we'll look at some options for being more frequent touches, and how that may, help us out as far as accountability and things of that nature. Particularly with a mentor class every other week, then it wouldn't be hard for us to maybe, on the weeks that we're not on the mentor class, is send out a little reminder email that says, hey, you were going to work on A, B, and C. How's that working? Just like a simple nudge type email. We got a really good list of topics that have come out of this, some future things to take a look at. So those would be some of the things that we'll, especially some of the more like the application architecture and patterns and things of that nature that we'll, and I do like the database stuff. That was a really good suggestion as well. So we may, swing back around to that, particularly from the more technical tutorial type stuff that we do in the YouTube. That may be a great thing for us to do in a topic for us to cover next in that area. Before moving on, anything else that we haven't talked about that's a topic or anything that anybody would want us to take a look at? All right, you're done. Let's see. I do want to remind everybody, we talk about this every time we have a mentor session, but that I think it is worthwhile for you to take a look every so often, at least out at the Developreneur site. There's a lot of content that gets more or less routed through that to some way, some way, form, or fashion. If you ever come up with anything, info@developreneur.com, you can always hit us. Plus you've got our Slack channels. You guys are on there. Those get responded to relatively quickly. Maybe on a weekend or a holiday, we may not jump on, but for the most part, you're going to probably get a response within, within a day, maybe immediately. So even if you run into some problem you need some help with, don't be afraid to throw it out there and see what happens. The Developreneur channel, the Twitter @Developreneur, the way it's set up is it's about probably about 2/3 of the content that goes out is not Developreneur content. It's links to articles and things like that look like they may have interest. So, if you're actually on Twitter enough that you actually follow, look at a Twitter stream of that, Developreneur is one I would recommend. I do it myself as something that's sort of just almost like a bookmark place that I can go back and take a look at things and say, oh yeah, that was something I wanted to spend more time digging into. So that's actually become a moderately useful way to deal with Twitter amongst all the other, I know there's a lot of noise in that, but sometimes you can filter it down by that channel or that user, and that makes it a lot easier. See, anything else you guys wanted to throw out there as we sort of wrap up our little town hall kind of discussion? This has been, I want to thank all of you. This has been great. This has been a lot of great feedback, a lot of excellent suggestions, a lot of things for us to think about as we move forward. One of the things I do want to do that I haven't mentioned, I'm not sure we even mentioned it in a mentor class, is getting to some sort of a schedule, sort of like a topic calendar. Maybe 2022 will be the year that we do that, where ideally we have something published and mapped out that here's the next 10 mentor sessions, or here's some of the details of upcoming YouTube posts or podcast episodes or things like that. The podcast, we try to do it by seasons, and so that you've got a rough idea of what's coming up. YouTube channels sort of the same way, as we tend to try to do it in special topics and things like that, sort of focused seasons or series of episodes. But I figured something like that will give you a little bit more opportunity. See what we've got up ahead.
For that Rob, would be to maybe do it by quarter. If you do it beyond that, it's going to warrant itself to be changed quite a bit.
It probably will. But that's a good idea. Maybe a quarterly.
Maybe
schedule.
just do it 3 months out. So basically do 3 months out, but always update it for like the next quarter during the last month of the quarter.
Yeah.